everybody, welcome back into Bayou Time. Harry McCullough here. One of our favorite segments is we always get to have Valerie Robinson in to talk about the Terrebonne Parish Animal Shelter. You always bring your friend, so no exception here.
No exception today. My friend today is Dango, and he is a
Dingo.
little orange tiger kitten. He's about 1.5 months old, so about 6 weeks old.
Oh, beautiful. So yeah, we'd call orange little tiger kitten.
Orange tiger.
So yeah, we've had some of those in our past, and those awesome little cats, man. Those are great. Dingo, right? He won't eat your baby though, right?
Dango, not dingo. Dango. It's kind of like bingo, but with an A and a D. Come on, what you say? You need a new name or a new home or both?
He's a good.
You can name him whatever you want if you take him home, though.
He's a good boy. So actually, that's where we're going to start today. Is Operation Whiskers, which you guys kind of started. I guess it's something you're going to do all the time, but it had something to do with the storm, and a lot of the kittens were just left behind or lost, and obviously those guys can repopulate pretty quickly. So tell us a little bit about exactly what Operation Whiskers is.
So Operation Whiskers came out of, like you said, after Hurricane Ida. Post-storm, we immediately sent our teams into the field to assess the damage. And as you know, it was pretty hefty.
Mm-hmm.
And so initially what we did was we helped as many dogs and cats in the field by feeding in place and sheltering in place. And then we started to collect any abandoned animals. Mostly dogs at first, and then afterwards what we realized is the cat population, there were people who used to care for the cats, so we call them caregivers, were displaced. People were just without the basics, and so the cats that were in our community were just kind of out there populating. So it's not uncommon for us to have an overpopulation of cats that are unfixed and breeding, and we've had a spay-neuter program implemented for a long time now. But with after the storm, what we realized is that was really, magnifying because we couldn't offer surgeries right away. We were, super busy. So what Operation Whiskers grew into is a 5-parish initiative with the support of some really hefty sponsorships from like Bissell and IFAW and several other agencies. They supported us by giving funds to be able to do surgeries for community cats. So what we do is we take the cats in the community, just like you see on the screen, we trap them in a humane trap, and then we pick them up, spay or neuter them, and release them back to their community. So what happens is those caregivers are calling us and saying, hey, I need some help with these cats. We go out and we service them, and the only intervention that we provide is spay neuter. We vaccinate them, give them 30 days worth of flea preventative to make sure that they are going to be healthy in the community. So that's really what Operation Whiskers boils down to.
Operation is a good word for Operation Whiskers because you've been doing a lot of operations. Now, you started in February, and the goal for a full year was to get 1,200, and you guys are almost at 1,000 now operations.
We are Operation Whiskers, and so operation-wise, we have done, I think, 960 as of last week. So if you kind of look at that surgery-wise, that's a lot of surgery. That's my team. They have not
It's like
stopped.
200 a month. Yeah.
Yes, and so we have not stopped. We've had some really big events where we haul in all kind of resources, trappers. We haul in outside resources. IFAW was a national organization that came in for the first time. So we had to use a lot of resources. After Hurricane Ida, it's no secret that we needed the outside resources. All of us, we needed some sort of outside resource. So what we did was we originally said, we're going to do these 200 cat events. And what we realized is that we could only have our staff taxed so far with that. And so what we're doing now is incorporating that in our regular surgery schedule. And our sponsors are, great with supporting that. So really excited to be able to offer that to the community. It's what we need. It's not what we want. It's what we need.
Well, yeah, and it just tells you a little bit. So, again, the goal is 1,200. You're probably going to exceed that, but it just tells you what's out there and what's needed for those little kitties. That there's a bunch more that probably need to be. You're probably getting 2,000, I would imagine.
Oh, easy. 2,000 is probably, on the conservative side. Honestly, what we've seen is we've impacted a lot of the colonies, the bigger colonies. So that's like 5+ cats. And so what we've seen is, most people will say, oh, I'm going to call about the big colonies, the 10, 20, 30s. We've even had a colony of 100 at one point. And so what we've seen is a lot of people calling about those. And now we're starting to get the phone calls of, well, I have 3 cats. It's been kind of hanging around. I've been feeding them. What we want to push out today, and what I want the community to know, is that we can help them with them. with spaying and neutering those cats for free. This Operation Whiskers has no cost for community outdoor cats. So that's the goal, is to remove all of the barriers as much as possible to get as many cats spay or neutered, so that we're not doing this again next year and our community's not having to feed litters and keep,
Yeah, I would imagine you get to a point of, where you're kind of making a dent in it, where there's not as many, it's got to come down a little bit. That's got to help too, though, even just putting them back. To, obviously when you got a bunch of houses that are knocked down, you're gonna have rats, you're gonna have rodents, you're gonna have all those kind of things that the cats can kind of help with those situations.
They are free pest control. And what we find is that sometimes the community has this, thought of like, we are adding to the population. Well, we're really not. We're only curbing the population by intervening with spay or neuter. Picking them up and having no other positive outcome for them doesn't make sense. Picking them up, having them fixed so that it, seals the deal where nobody's reproducing, get free pest control happening. And we also do flea preventative for that first month as well. So it curbs a lot of those issues. The negative behaviors kind of go away once they're fixed.
Yeah, no, I can see, you can see a lot of benefits from that, right? It's better to have a cat around than some rats or, that kind of stuff. So particularly in those areas, and particularly when you got wood that's knocked down, you hadn't had a chance to get to that kind of stuff, it can certainly help out. So a lot of people, we got a lot of stuff too to talk about, but we got some dogs to talk about. We got some daycare issues, doggies day out. Some of us are cats in life, some of us are dogs. So let's move over from the cats and Operation Whiskers to the dogs. So a couple of cool things that are going on. So you got the doggy day out and the pajama party pilot program. So what's that all about?
So under the foster umbrella, we've created a couple of subcategories in our foster program, and that looks like some really exciting stuff. So first off is the Dog Day Out program. Dog Day Out is something that other shelters are doing, and we saw, and we're just kind of copying and letting our community help us out. It's like checking out a library book from the library, where you, instead of checking out a book, you're checking out a dog. And what we're doing is aiming to get some of the dogs that have been in our shelter longer, or big dogs that are kind of being passed over for the cute small guys. So we're trying to get them some outdoor exposure. And what that looks like is you coming in, right? And you say, who's available for us to take out on a field trip? That's what it is. You can go to McDonald's and grab a cheeseburger. You can go and, hang out with your house for a little while. You can take them for a walk. You can take selfies. What we're looking to do is promote these dogs so that they have a better chance of being seen in our community. It's so often that once we really target and we promote those specific dogs, that people see them and they fall in love with them. And so what we're trying to do is get our community on board to help us. We're only so many staff members. So if the community comes forward and says, hey, I'm willing to help, it's one of the best things that I tell everybody is that to have somebody to advocate for those dogs, like a foster or somebody who's taking them for a field trip.
There's dog's mental health too.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
And so for the dog, the benefit is that they get out of the shelter for a little while. They get to go for a run. They get to go to McDonald's. They get to go and take a few selfies. They get to go out of the shelter. And for them, it's the benefit of, yay, I get a break. Who wouldn't want a break? And so for them, they get out. And then for, them, they also get the exposure. So you might be walking, one of the dogs down the street with an Adopt Me harness on, and somebody who didn't know that we had a Facebook page sees him and says, tell me about this dog. He's so nice. He's so great. But in the shelter, he might have been overlooked.
Right. Yeah, work on their Instagram game. That's pretty funny. No, but it's also a good way because look, that's a big commitment to have a dog, right? Some people may be retiring. Look, we want to travel a little more. We don't need a dog, but this is a great way they can give something back, still get the companionship of having a dog, and kind of helping out that way.
Exactly. And so that's the other thing is so many people are concerned about, well, can I try him out and see? Or they just want the loving without the commitment, and our dogs will benefit from that. So what we're really trying to do is get the best of both worlds. There's so many people that you just said, like, hey, I want to travel, or I don't have the time, or I can only do 1 day a week. Would that help a dog? And yeah, absolutely would help a dog. You can come back and do 3 dogs, take one for an hour, come back, and if you're, if you want to volunteer to be able to do that.
Right. No, that's a great way to, and the pajama party.
Same thing. So the same concept, is, these dogs want that break. And so what we've done is develop the pajama party program. So that pajama party
my
looks
boy.
like a sleepover. So they wear their pajamas or they don't. You can just give them a soft bed to sleep in, and they get the time to socialize with the foster, the person that's temporarily holding them. So maybe you have a weekend off with nothing happening. It's going to rain and you're really not doing anything. You say, it doesn't hurt to, get the dog out of the shelter and then bring him back on Monday on your way to work, whatever works for you. In the meantime, you're taking selfies, you're, photographing these dogs, you're advocating on social media for these dogs.
Right.
And believe
It's
it or not,
important,
it really goes quickly whenever we have somebody that's helping us to advocate. Again, we only have so many, staff members, and we only can put so many pictures. And when they're competing with 40 other dogs in the shelter, but if you have one person
New
advocating
eyes.
for that animal, you're like, oh, I'm gonna pay attention to my friend who's posting that on Facebook.
Yeah, it's so funny. I was just kind of laughing. You saying selfies and posting, and you're going, well, you can see your demographics, skewing younger, but it's so smart that you get a dog on social media and it's like, God, that's a cute dog. Where'd you get it from? So yeah, any kind of way to get out. So y'all can have 56 dog runs. So there's quite a few dogs, and hopefully you don't have that many at a time, but always have somebody that's looking for, like say you have people that are moving out of town and can't take a dog and that kind of stuff. This is a great way for people to help out that way.
It is, and adoption is, really number one for us. But before that even is keeping pets in their homes. One of the things that we're trying to push with adoptions upcoming in the month of August is going to be the Clear the Shelter event. It's Clear the Shelter of 2022. So if you can't foster, or if the pajama party thing, works out for you, you might be able to turn around and adopt that dog. And so we're going to be looking at some cool stuff in August of 2020 coming up for the Clear the Shelter events.
Yeah, and you're looking for volunteers. It'd be cool to have like a blood drive. Like, hey, I've adopted 8 dogs that I took home. That'd be cool. Just have some kind of competition. But yeah, so you're trying to clear the shelters of 2022.
We are,
and that's obviously trying to have dogs adopted or rehomed. And I think we were talking a little earlier. You don't have to always take them in. If you can find a spot where they don't come in, as a shelter is the last spot as opposed to the first spot.
Exactly. And that's what I was talking about earlier, is that the adoption is our number one goal once they enter the shelter. But before they enter the shelter, which is our really number one goal, is keeping people with their pets. So however we need to make that happen, we have resources that people can, go home to home, which is the hometohome.org, that we have that website set up. Essentially, it's just having the animal not come through the shelter. They can go directly from a home to another home to keep them out of the shelter. Shelter should be a very last resource. Why? We have great staff. They're amazing people. They take great care. But animals don't belong inside of a shelter. They belong inside of a home. So whatever we can do to mitigate them coming into the shelter is what we want to do. And if they have to come into the shelter, we're pushing to get them out as quickly as possible.
Yeah, I'm sure you have some bad apples, but I think 90% of people really love dogs, and then just for some reason, look, we're not going to be able to do this anymore.
Circumstances definitely drive those decisions for sure. We've seen some really heartbreaking stuff, especially after Hurricane Ida.
For sure. Valerie Robinson, thank you so much.
Thank you.
We appreciate it. We'll be right back with more Bite Time after this.